What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another DFS Army coaching session. I am Kevin, aka the Fantasy Football Geek, and I'm here to talk about a subject that we all know about. We know it's important, and yet we all want to ignore it because it bores us and we think it's stupid. But bankroll management and contest selection. I really try to push this a lot within our group and in my channel, and I've been writing about different things, and I really want people to understand what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm putting this together in a video where you can get a visual. Bankroll management, everybody knows the DFS Army bankroll management ladder. The idea is almost to make a pyramid where your baseline is in cash games and high likelihood of winning type contests, and then work your way up in order to maximize that lineup in case it hits or it's a special lineup. We want to be able to take maximum advantage of it. The most important thing in daily fantasy sports, bankroll management and allocation, is to minimize the losses on the bad days while maximizing the upside of the great lineup on the good days. And people don't understand how important it is, but it's critical. So the first part, how do we minimize the losses and smooth over our bankroll? It starts with head-to-head contests, not 50-50s, not double ups, but head-to-head contests. And it's funny because I started off head-to-heads, this was my big thing, and I was convinced of otherwise, and people told me, no, you got to play 50-50s and double ups and this and that, and I've really looked at it, and I've tried it, and I've tested it out myself, and in the end of the day, that's not correct. The best method for maintaining your bankroll, running ladders, is doing as many head-to-heads as you possibly can with each lineup, and I'm going to show you why real quick before I get to contest selection. So there's a couple of reasons. On DraftKings as an example, if you look at the double-ups, and this is not as intense on FanDuel, but if you look at the double-ups, where is this? Some of them carry fairly hefty margins. Look at these guaranteed ones, 13%, 13%. That's a serious high margin to pay for a 50-50 contest where margin is everything, and it's just one part of it, but margin is everything with cash games. And the rake that the sites take is the thing that destroys your bankroll more than anything else. The difference, at a 10% rake, we need a 55% win rate to break even. At a 13% rate, we need to get all the way up closer to 58 or 59%. It's a massive difference, even though it looks like nothing. And you might think, well, what's the big deal? It's one contest. But over time, over the course of a year, if I did $100,000 in entries, and I take in entries at a 13% margin, I've got it adds up over time. You don't notice it on day to day. But the main reason why we do head-to-heads versus 50-50s is because of the bell curve. And I'm going to show you the bell curve with some standard deviations, break out some math. All right, so here's your standard bell curve, right? If you take a lineup and enter it, a single lineup, and let's say I do 20 head-to-head contests, $1. Doesn't matter the amount. So the number of them, because we need a large distribution of opponents. Let's say we do 20 head-to-head contests. The expectation is most of them will fall at what we call the mean score. Most of the people will end up in this area. This is one standard deviation above, one standard deviation unit below. If you add these two up, about 70% of all the lineups will fall in here. Why is this important? When you're in this 70% range, you're pretty much on the positive, you're going to make a little bit of profit. On the loss side, you're going to lose a little bit, but you ain't losing all your money. So if I do a $100 ladder, I'm going to speed through this part, but if I do a $100 ladder and I enter 70 of it in head-to-head contests, so I've got $70 on the line. If I do a double up and I'm 1 point below the mean, I'm going to lose 100% of my money. $100 down the drain, goodbye. That same lineup entered with mainly head-to-heads, hey, it's $70 worth of, I lost my GPPs, that's fine, I'm down $30, but I'll probably get most of my 70 in cash back, maybe 65. Okay, so tomorrow I come back, and instead of my bankroll having gone from 100 to 0, it's at 65. Or yesterday, I'm down $35. So if I hit on my line up the next day, which I expect, let's say we only hit 2 out of 3 days. How about 3 out of 5 days? The average. So we're a little above average. We're hitting 3 out of 5 days. Well, let's see what happens. On day 2, I hit. And I hit my numbers, and I hit a number, let's say up here. I'm doubling up my money. I've got my money back from the previous day and then some. Let's say I get a 1 standard deviation or even a 1.5 standard deviation unit of bet. Not only will I win 100% of my head-to-heads, but I'm probably cashing big in my tournament entries as well. So without getting too much into it, one of our goals is to set ourselves up for success, not failure. And when you're only entering GPPs, or if you're entering 50-50s, ones that like punish you seriously for missing the cash line, you're not setting yourself up for success, really. You're setting yourself up for failure. We don't want to do that. We want to minimize the damage on the bad days and maximize the potential winning on the good days. Now, that's the second part of it, maximizing the potential winnings on the good days. How do you do that? Well, one of the things is contest selection. Now, we talked about the ladder, and the DFS Army ladder, super important. We've got to start with, I'm going to give you an example here, but I like to start with as many of these smaller contests as we can. Single entry, $25. This is the perfect leg one for my kind of a ladder, where I'll go in either 25 or like a windmill for $100. Check out, this is the perfect contest. This is the contest I enter a lot. Now, not everybody has this margin. It might be checking out mentally, but it doesn't matter how much it is. There's a version of this for $5 and for $2. But check this out. First place, 22%. It's a little high, but it's not out of control. Now, I don't actually love 22% at first, but in a smaller contest like that, it's winnable. So you have the potential to get there. But even if not, the point is the margin is lower. It pays out about 20% of the field, and even just min cash is 1.5 times my money. So at the very least, you're being rewarded for a decent lineup. I want to point out the contest to avoid at all costs. One of the first things I want you to look at when you're entering a contest is, because these are killers, the bankroll killers, and unfortunately the sites have snuck them into all the areas that we normally like to play. It's weird how the toe and the tick are so different, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But here's the toe shot. $100,000 to first, $300,000 prize pool. To be clear, this contest pays 33% to first place only. Tack on a 15% margin, and we're talking 48% of the money that's in this contest either going to first place or to the rake. That means for the rest of you suckers, you're fighting it out over 50% of the prize pool. You will never, ever, ever be able to be successful over time entering a contest like this outside of winning that first place one time. Good luck with that. Most of us don't have the 35,000 entries it would take to finally bring the odds around to taking first place in a contest like this. So every other time that you enter it, you're probably going to lose money. Your expectation should be, I'm going to lose money. And then you shouldn't be surprised later when you're like, shit, why the fuck am I losing money? Well, you entered contests that are designed to suck the money out of you. It's just like the Millie Maker that DraftKings used to do. There are contests that you must avoid at all costs. And generally, anything over 20% to first is a big time no-no. And even 20% to first is a bit much. I'd rather see 15% or below. And I'm going to show you some of those contests. But again, I'm just going to show you another example on this contest of what, because you might not believe me. Right now you're like, hey, he's full of shit and this is boring, blah, blah, blah. Well, this contest costs $10 to enter. Each entry is $10. 35,000 entrants, more. So the top 3,500, a top 3,500 score would be in the top 10%. Like once out of 10 times, you should be able to hit that, right? So if I enter 10 lines, oh, I got one in top 10%. What did I get back? $16. Not even double my entry. So let's say I got 50% of my entries in the top 10% in this contest. I put in 10, I got 5 in the top 10%. So I put in $100, I got 5 in the top 10%. How many did I get back? 80? Half of my lineups in the top 10% don't even get me my money back. It's crazy. You will always lose money in this contest. Don't enter it. Don't enter contests that look like this. Now, here's oddly, this is called a toe. Here's the tick. Now, the tick has 16% margin, but hey, that's the shit you got to deal with when you do $4 entries. Fine by me. But first place in the tick is only 7%. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So in this case, when you enter a contest like this, all of these bottom guys are getting double their money. In these different levels, you're getting much better margins on your money. So this is a much, much better type of a contest to attack. Yes, you get rewarded nicely for first place. It's not $100,000, but 10th place is probably 500 to 800th place. These areas here, like 1200th place, which is top 10%, is literally more than you're getting back from the $10 contest. So this is the smart way to play. Playing contests that aren't going crazy on first place. And here's some other single entry ones that are also good. $25 and 1. This is one I like a lot. Check out the prize pool. 13% to first, 20% of the field cash. Min cash is 2x. So if you're in the money, in the top 20%, you've already doubled your money. And if you move up, and it's winnable because there's only 800 entrants, you have a real chance at winning this once in a while. Like, you're not going to win it every day, but you could win it once a month if you're good. This is the type of contest I generally win once a month or twice a month or 3 times a month. And you're good. And this is what changes your bankroll around. So I can't stress enough how important it is to look at each contest that you enter. Make sure if you're layering up a ladder. So let's say we're doing $100 ladder. $100 ladder is still small for me. Let's say we're doing a $200 ladder. So I started off with $130 worth of head-to-heads. Now I'm going to start what I call laddering up. And I might start my ladder up with something like this, or in DraftKings, something like this $40 contest that I was just talking about a few minutes ago, where I even like the posturizer, but that's just a contest that I like. But one of these, where's that $40 one I was just looking at? Here. Something like this, the mid-range jumper. Yeah, it's winnable and it's small. So you start with winnable and small, look at the dollars, and then you margin your way up from there. So then I'm like, all right, that's a $40 contest. Let me take a look at the like a small or like a smaller, larger contest, maybe a $25 or $12 single entry like this one. This one's perfect. Yeah, so I might do then a $25 pick and roll. I'm a big fan of this contest normally. Let's see what the numbers say. First place, top 10%. This is my kind of contest. It pays out nicely, 33% to the top 10. But it just gives you a more even distribution so that if I'm third, I'm not completely screwed. Or if I'm 15th or 20th, I still make 12, 15 times my money. This is the kind of contest you want to enter. Nice one. Now you might say, well, it's not, I want the $100,000 one. But if you're going to play that way, you might as well just jack up your entry amount. Because entering the crazy margin contests, the ones that say massive numbers to first place, for example, and I'm going to see if there's a, DraftKings does it. DraftKings does them too, and it's been very frustrating, but I'm not sure if there's one in their NBA product tonight. But take a look at this one. If we want to take a shot, let's just take a look at this one. 10% to first. See, here we go. You want to take a shot at mass multi-entry. You got to pay attention to this one's great. 20 entries, first place, $25,000. It's limiting. You can't put a ton in there. The payouts are nicely spread out. Top 10 gets 27%. That's fine. This is the kind of contest we want to look for. And beware of beware of the contests that pay out massively to first place. And this is what I'm talking about. First place, 23%. Tack on the margin of 14%, and you're talking, let me look at the time, you're talking 40% of the prize pool going to first place or the margin. All right, so that's basically it, guys. I just want to remind you all that we want to set ourselves up for success, and we don't do that by throwing away our money at top-heavy contests. They are gimmicks. They have that. Whenever you see some number to first, it's usually a gimmick. I'm sure this one's a freaking gimmick too, 150 to first, but 30%. Be aware of what you're doing.